many cultures around the world where mothers raise kids in very small places. And let me tell you, those kids can be the happiest, most resilient people you will ever, 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 ever know. When I went to Africa, to Tanzania specifically, the joy that I experienced around those kids versus little spoiled American brat kids. No offense, I've got 3 spoiled American brat kids.
Within 30 seconds, you manage to be condescending, disrespectful, xenophobic, anti-black, and elitist. Please don't ever speak on Africa. You went there to visit. And this idea that children in poverty are happy, I don't know. It's just like, and that classist mindset is extremely dangerous. Children who grew up under these circumstances are so resilient. Somebody here said that same bullshit one time on this app. And I asked them, I was like, so what do you want me to say to the children who are currently, the 4,000 or 4 million children who are stuck in this concentration camp that they've created in Congo because of this that's going on there? What do you want me to tell them? That don't worry, this type of situation will make you resilient. You will become somebody in life, somebody great. For right now, it's okay for you to suffer. The poverty that have been created through the continent of Africa from top to bottom, left and right, it is due to the pillage and rape of that continent. Y'all are out here pretending like you don't understand it's a cultural practice. It is not a cultural practice to have children in situations in where you cannot provide for them. It's not an African practice.
As someone who grew up in a very small place, as someone who's from a very lowly background or a poor background, I want to share my own experience. This is a picture of the room that I grew up in from 0 to like maybe 9 years old. In this room, it's a one room. There's no toilets in there. There's no living room in there. There's no kitchen in there. There's no bathroom in there. It's just one room, that like this room I'm in right now. This is where I grew up in. From the moment I became aware of my existence, I became aware of my economic situation and the economic situation that I was born into, where I was in society, where my family was in society. Trust me when I say I was pissed. I hated it. I hated every second of it. I want to say now, speaking for the rest of the population, the rest of African children who grew up just like me, who have the same background just like me, that we were not happy. No, we were not. But before I get into my experience and what it was like for me growing up in this particular situation, I do want to give context for that sister's video, right? There was this situation that was going down on TikTok a couple of weeks ago. There was this family that came up. They've been on TikTok from what I could gather. They are called the Jenkins family. I believe their handle on TikTok is Jenkins Resilience or something like that, right? It's not a well-to-do family. And from what I could gather, it seemed like the niche for their TikTok, how they go about their videos is like, oh, we are this family, we have a bunch of kids and we are broke, so follow us on our journey. I don't know how else to describe it.
I don't think you're classist or you hate poor people just for saying, hey, y'all had enough people living in that one bedroom, you didn't need to create another. And this is coming from someone who lived in a situation with 5 people in a 1 bedroom. My mom got the room. Me and my 3 siblings would sleep on the pull-out couch in the living room. So when I saw the initial video that went viral, I wasn't coming from a place of judgment. I really wanted to know, man, how did they find themselves in this situation? So I scroll all the way down to 2022 when she first started doing content. And when she met this man, she had 2 children, he had 1 child. So they're an instant family of 5. And they were living in that same 1-bedroom apartment. Okay, those 3 babies were sleeping in the living room. And guess what? Her man actively trying to have another baby. I think that's the part that throws people off. It wasn't a oopsie. It wasn't an accident. No, they planned to have this baby. And 9 times out of 10, the one that she's pregnant with now, they planned for that one as well. But they didn't plan to upgrade their space. That's the part that's frustrating. That's the part that I can't get behind. And I'm actually happy for her that she was able to kind of get this following, and hopefully she seizes this opportunity and makes something of it and makes the best of it and is able to change their financial situation. But I don't know if changing the financial situation is really going to change the living situation, because I've also seen a video where she said their dream is to own a tiny home. And it's like, babes, you got an extra large family. Y'all can't fit in no tiny home. Not right now, at least. Not right now. So I really do hope the best for her and her family. And I've seen people say, well, at least they got a roof over their head. And I really do understand that. But the quality of the roof matters as well.
So they shared this video on their TikTok where they basically show their house and how they are living. It's a one bedroom apartment, and they spoke about how the kids sleep on the floor in one section of the house. So the kids, they sleep on the floor, and mom and dad, they take the bedroom, and they have a bed, but the kids sleep on the floor. And somehow, even in the video, I don't know if they deliberately captured it in the video or if people just picked up on it, but it seemed like in their video a PS5 was either captioned or mentioned. I'm not sure, but people were talking about a PS5, right, that the dad had. And so people were having this discourse about so they can't get their kids, nice living environments, get them beds, or get an apartment where they can have their beds and sleep comfortably, but the dads can have a PS5. So people were having these discussions online. I didn't personally go to their page to check anything, because I'm like, as someone who is from like a poor background, it's a trigger for me to go and look at that. So even just hearing people talk about it, coming by videos of people reacting to it, was like, so I didn't go. I wish the kids had a better life, because when I was in their situation, I wished I had a better life. So it was during this conversation that this lady made this video talking about how, the Jenkins kids are going to be fine. There are kids in Africa who live in small places. Somehow it makes them better. I can't find the full video that she made because it seemed like she took it down. I went to her page, the video is no longer there. And not to dwell too much on the Jenkins family, because that's not what this video is about per se. But I feel like since they are being mentioned here because they are the reason why this entire video at this point exists, I don't think I can make this video, even after mentioning them in the little way that I have, without mentioning the fact that the man's child, his son, gets treated allegedly not all that great from the look of things by the wife. Hell, from the look of things, she's not exactly allegedly his wife, because allegedly it seems she's married to a guy that's in prison for SA.
So I looked into it. Apparently the woman, whatever, Brazilian Jenkins' wife, apparently she was married to, well, I think they're still married. Her husband is a convicted offender. There's a woman on TikTok who says that she's a private investigator. I don't know if she's a real private investigator, but she did her big one. She looked up these people. I guess she found them on Facebook. I'm not quite sure. She found out that this woman's first husband essayed, I think, a 14-year-old, a 7-year-old, and his own mother. His mother. Y'all, this story, literally every single day, it just gets worse and worse and worse.
Deep breaths. Deep breath. I was really trying to not dig too deep into this family, because I know they are going to trigger me, right? And yes, right now I'm getting triggered, but seeing how I'm making a video about the situation, or the situation is being mentioned, because this video is not exactly about the situation, but seeing how I'm mentioning them, there are some key things that I cannot not mention, because I think they are very important. So now I'm basically triggering myself at this point. Let me just quickly get to the point I was trying to make earlier, which is the fact that Mr. Resilient's son, the one he had before he got together with her, he's not getting treated allegedly all that great. And people were able to pick up on this just from the videos that they posted on TikTok.
Why doesn't he have new pajamas? Because I looked at that wish list for days, and all of that stuff was for her girls, for the kid they have together, for her man, for her, but not for her stepson. His son gets nothing?
I get it right. This is Hell's Kitchen. My boy, mix that shit.
The extent people are going through to taint my name as a mother.
It's really sad how she literally shows that she treats other kids differently than the stepson. Refer to him as his son and not our son. Literally says it's not her job to take care of his kids. Aren't you married? Why do the girls have matching pajamas and he doesn't? Look at their shoes and look at his shoes. The way she just has like no time for them just really rubs me the wrong way. Who bought this 30-something-year-old man Puma socks? Know what you guys think about this in the comments.
So I did my best to stay out of the rabbit hole, but then my niece called me and then she started talking about this family. And I said, see, this is the family I was talking about a while ago. And she was like, nah, I see why you're talking about them. She was like, auntie, that lady got like 7 kids and she got 1 on the way. I said, She said, where that newborn going to sleep? I said, I don't know. She already got 1 in the oven, 1 in the microwave. This one might sleep in the toaster. I don't even know, girl. And then she started talking about how they be doing the little boy. And how, like, he always has, like, old stuff and the girls always have new stuff. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's her stepson. That's how she's doing them. And mind you, I'm still trying to stay out of this rabbit hole. Because I'm like, nah, I don't block this family. I don't want no parts in it, right? And then she started talking about this little boy's shoes. And then that's when I lost it. Because why is your son's shoes looking like this and you over there doing overtime for that girl to have unicorn shoes? You need to get your son some shoes. Stop worrying about them. Get your son some fucking shoes.
My heart goes out to that little boy. In as much as, yes, we need to, or she does need to be called out for how she treats him, we cannot not talk about the dad because he's present in that relationship. He's present in that family. That's your son. Why are you not making sure your son is getting treated properly, accordingly, with respect, and treated equal to the other kids in the relationship, the other kids in the family? He's the father. He should care about his son. So what is he doing to make sure that his son is not getting treated less than, to make sure that his son is not being left out, right? So yes, I would call him out as well because he has some responsibility to take here. But then again, knowing what I know, the little thing I know about the man and how he's not exactly, to put it lightly, the best, it seems, man out there, right? He's not the best catch. He's not putting in effort to allegedly get a job and make sure his family is well taken care of. I don't even know if he knows that he should make sure his son is being protected and cared for. Like, you get what I mean? So that just might be asking too much of him, because if he's so oblivious to the fact, and what people have tagged him lazy, right? Because he's not really out there allegedly grinding and making sure that he's earning and doing well for himself personally, not to even talk about for society at large or his family, not to take care of a pikin I go know, like, you get. So it's just unfortunate that the little boy is caught in the midst of all of this. And I also cannot end this portion of the video without also thinking about, okay, where's the boy's mom, right? And what steps is she taking to make sure her son is not being treated this way? Since I don't really know much about that situation, I'm not going to speak on it and just come to any conclusions and say she's not doing anything, because I genuinely don't know. And quite frankly, this video has become way more about this family than I want it to be. But I really want to highlight this moment because a child getting maltreated, like, it gets on my very last nerve. No child should be treated like this, right? Hence why I want to highlight this part of the situation, because I feel like it's something that needs to be highlighted. But for people wondering, though, just quickly before we move on from this, they eventually got beds for the kids. People contributed, from what I could gather, people contributed and helped them buy beds. And even that one too, after it was done for them, it still ended up being a messy situation at the end of the day.
I really got on this app, cussed everyone out in the comment sections who had a criticism, sent that lady's children beds to the doorstep so they were not required to exert any sort of effort or any sort of energy doing anything for their kids, even if it was on someone else's dime. Once the beds got delivered, y'all got up here, asked her if y'all could see the beds once they were set up, and she looked at y'all and said, oh my God, y'all always asking about the rooms. Next topic, next subject. Then you know what? Hell yeah. As she should. As she should. Because you know what? I've had enough of y'all. If y'all are going to get up here and continue to make the conscious decision to financially subsidize these people's lifestyles who get up here and do absolutely nothing besides ask and demand that y'all send them money, then let them get a bag. It's really putting into perspective for me why I get on this app and constantly see videos of y'all talking about how everyone manipulates you and everybody gets over on you, because y'all couldn't recognize a finesse even when it's right in front of your face. Y'all couldn't recognize a crook if they were dressed up as Jeff Bezos, okay? And I say all that to say this. A lot of y'all were mad at me in the comment section of my last video about this situation, saying that I was promoting eugenics. Have children, but just don't have more than you can financially and emotionally provide for does not equal eugenics. Eugenics is when you think that all poor people should never have kids, regardless of situation, regardless of character, regardless of nuance. You believe that only the rich, only people with a certain amount of money in their bank account should be allowed to have kids. I said in the beginning of my last video, I don't think you should have to be a millionaire to have children, but if you can only afford one, only have one. If you can only afford two, only have two. If you can only afford three, only have three.
An advice I wish my parents took, because guess what? We are 8 in numbers, 8 kids, and I'm the first child, right? Could they afford 8 children? No. But did they have them regardless? Yes. And as a firstborn child, especially with, having this experience, it really can get very frustrating, because in the moment when they are having these children, I could already see, even back then when I was in secondary school, I could already see that this is going to be my responsibility at the end of the day. And yes, it did become my responsibility. It is my responsibility right now to take care of all these children, because my mom and dad, they are elderly now, right? They're getting old, but then there are still all of these kids that are in like primary school and secondary school, kids that are my siblings that needs to be taken care of. They need an education, they need clothes on their backs, they need to be fed, right? These things have to be done. And yes, thankfully my younger brother is there to assist, so the burden is not all on me. I don't know how and if they ever think these things through. Like in the moment as you are having the kids, when you had me, the first child, you could not afford it because we're bloody living in one room, right? And then you had another one in that same room. And then you had the third one in that same room. They had 5 kids in that one room. I'm not talking about a 1-bedroom apartment. I'm talking about one bloody room. Right? So like having all of these kids that you cannot take care of, we understand how poverty came about in Africa. We understand how it is, right? But it is what it is right now. Work with the situation that you have and don't do past your body. Don't do above your means. But somehow these parents don't be having that kind of way of thinking. They just be popping out these babies and then be looking up to, oh, yes, is this the first one is going to handle it, or looking up to their kids to come help them clean the mess that they created. And I want to be clear, this is not coming from a place of resentment. I love my parents and I love my siblings, and I'm glad to do this for them. I'm glad I'm able to do this for us. And I'm also grateful that myself and my younger brother, we are at a place now where we can assist our family and hold the fort, right? But to call a spade, should this have been how they should have arranged it? No. I love all my siblings and I cannot imagine life without them. But to keep it 100, I wish my parents made better decisions, wiser decisions. Not only would that have been good for them, it also would have been good for us, because let's talk about it quickly. If they had less kids, they would have had less financial strain on them, which would mean they would have been able to pursue certain dreams that they had better and be able to finance these dreams, and maybe be able to have room to be able to do better for themselves and be bigger than they were, right? But because they had all of these children, which means more financial responsibilities, they were limited. For the things they were able to do was limited. Maybe the places they even wanted to go to travel, go see places and do things, they were limited because they could not afford to do all of these things because they have all of these children. So they lived a very limited life because of their children. We were a responsibility, we were a burden that they brought upon themselves, right? So that one is on them. But now back to the kids, us, right? There are certain things too that we want to do now, goals that we have, right? Places that maybe we want to go to, but we cannot really do these things the way we want to or we should be able to, because we have this much responsibility on us right now. So a lot of our goals get pushed back to a later date. We have to relegate certain things to a later time. We are not able to pursue things the way we want to in the moment because we cannot afford to pursue these things the way we want to because we have all of these responsibilities. And this is how people create generational poverty. For real, this is how they do it because the people before them be making very insane decisions that keep them stuck, and now you are coming in and you are basically inheriting debts, right? Except for a miracle where you are able to break out or something. This is literally how they create generational poverty. And it frustrates me when some people don't get it when we're trying to have these conversations. They are like, this is eugenics that you are preaching, or you are shaming poor people for having kids. But like, that's not what this is. This is saying, let us be wiser. We have brains, for crying out loud. Let's make wiser decisions, because when we don't, a lot of people get affected. And that's why I'm very passionate about this topic, because I really want people to understand what the decisions that they are making mean. I really want people to understand what this means for the kids that you are bringing into this, what kind of future you are setting them up for, what kind of life you are setting them up for, and what kind of life you are possibly setting up your grandchildren to come and your great grandchildren to come when you create this kind of loop, when the foundation that you lay for your kids, it's a very wobbling one. You are basically setting them up for failure, right? I want people to understand this. I want people to understand what they are doing. I'm very passionate about this because I've lived that life. Hell, no, not past tense. I'm living the life, and I'm seeing firsthand what it means when people have these children that they cannot take care of, what it means for the quality of life that these kids are going to have, or should I say the lack of quality of life that these kids are going to have. And you know how basically you are making them start at a negative, and how that can affect their entire life and even the life of their kids and the life of their grandkids, right?
Whenever the conversation of not having children you can't afford to house or feed comes up, some dumbass turns it into a "you guys just hate poor people" conversation. I hate people who intentionally and willingly hurt children. Consentingly bringing children into unsafe, unclean, lacking in privacy and space homes, unsure of where their next meal is going to come from, is hurting children, tangibly and psychologically. And if any of you actually cared about children, you'd be unequivocally against such. And none of the progressive, pseudo-intellectual, therapized, postmodern, meta-sociology word salad that y'all toss around to make excuses for selfish adults, selfish and dangerous adults, because you feel bad for them and their bad decision-making and or want to appear the most woke, will make that untrue. Well, we should be talking about the system that makes people poor. Talk about them until you're blue in the face. At the end of the day, you're still a conscious adult who can choose to subject children to your unfortunate circumstances or not.
As you can read in the caption above, we're a family of 6 going on 7 living in a 1-bedroom apartment.
That is a horrible life for her children, and she should be ashamed of herself. Pregnant with another child, meanwhile her current children don't even have beds. 4, 5, 6 kids in a 1-bedroom apartment with dirty carpets and pets that have fleas. That is also a household with boys and girls in it. What happens when the girls grow up and need privacy? What happens when the boys grow up and need privacy? Babies don't stay babies forever. The social impact of them never being able to have friends over. The impact on their mental health when they get bullied if they do have friends over and their friends come in to see that. Y'all love to bring up the legalities of abortion and instances of whenever I say people shouldn't have children they can't afford to adequately accommodate. And the number one reason I hate it is because it's a farce. It is hiding behind a small percentage of circumstances to dismiss the majority. Because the majority of circumstances look like that. People who are too selfish to care about the quality of life the children they are bringing into this world will have. People too selfish to consider the long-term impact of the households their children will grow up in. There are many cultures around the world where mothers raise kids in very small places. And let me tell you, those kids can be the happiest, most resilient people you will ever know. When I went to Africa, to Tanzania specifically, the joy that I experienced around those kids versus little spoiled American brat kids. No offense, I've got 3.
This rhetoric that is out there, that children in poverty are happy, trying to make it a positive, right? There is nothing positive about poverty. To see people somehow romanticize poverty, especially when that's not even your foundation, that's not where you're from. It's crazy to me. And just to be clear, I won't be cool if someone who's from a poor background romanticize poverty either. And I'm using the word romanticize right now, and I used it all across this video because that's the best word I could think of in the moment while I was filming this video. So I don't know if it's the best word, but it's the word I use. So please bear with me. Thank you very much. Let's get back to the video. It's crazy to me that there are people who can sit in their privilege, right? And it's not just these ladies, it's something that people do, and it's crazy to me that you can sit in your privilege and talk about how positive poverty is and how it can help kids be better. Of course you will say that because you've never been there. Like the things I had to see growing up, the things I had to do growing up, the things I had to endure growing up, certain things that I would not have experienced if I wasn't, from that background. It's not just even my own personal experience, like it's, what my siblings experienced, what their life was like, what their life could have been like if that was not the foundation that we're from. It's also what the life of my mom could have been like. For one, all of the kids slept on the floor, having to go to the toilet outside, having to go bathe outside, having to maybe watch my mom cook outside because we don't have a kitchen. Living in this kind of situation meant that I was constantly thinking about and dreaming about the day that I would not be in this kind of situation. Not only me, but also like my family, my mom, my dad, everybody basically dreaming about the day that we would not be here. Like, while yes, there were moments where we were smiling, because of course, like, there's always going to be that moment regardless of whatever situation that you are in. While yes, there were moments where as kids we play around the compound and we looked happy. It's just that moment. That's an escape. Having to play with other kids and run around the compound and roll tires or play with robbers, play Oko or Ludo with people around, and we're happy. In that moment, yes, we're happy because like whatever we are doing is distracting us from our situation. Which is why I find it crazy when I see people romanticize poverty, because there are times where they see these kids that are from like poor or lowly background happy. They're like, you know, they are happy. No, they are not. In that moment, they are happy. Because of whatever it is that's making them happy, which is distracting them. Eventually, they are going to go back home and sometimes cry and start praying to God for God to change their situation. My parents did try, even though we were like this. They tried to feed us as best as they could. They tried to clothe us as best as they could. I have memories of my parents getting called and to the corner or to the principal's office or to the headmistress or the owner of the school, whatever they are called these days, their office, talking about like fees and how they are owing so much that they haven't paid, and now they're getting embarrassed, and now I'm there, like, also, aware of what's going on, reminded again of how broke we are in comparison to the other kids. I wasn't happy when I had to spend the entire day in the security post with my siblings because we could not afford school fees. So the school decided to make us stay there and not receive classes because we've not paid for school fees. Like, that wasn't a joyful experience, because like, what my parents did? They did all they could, right? They really wanted to give us that good start, and I'm forever grateful to my mom and my dad. So they sent us to this school where they are rich kids. And you know what that does is you can't always hide where you're from. Like, while yes, we're all wearing the same uniforms, and you can blend in because of the uniform. You look like the rest of the kids, but there's always going to be things that will tell that you are really not like them. It's the quality of shoe that you're wearing. I hated my shoe. I remember that shoe. I fucking hated that shoe. She was fucking ugly. I hated it. She got it second hand for one. I cannot get the picture of that shoe out of my head. My mom loved the shoe. Let me tell you why my mom loved that shoe. Because it's pure leather.
Fucking raining, man. She gonna fuck up my fucking leather, man.
So I'm going to wear and wear and wear and wear and wear that shoe. That shoe is not going to get bad.
I will never change. Never, ever.
So she loved it. So even though I hated the shoe was ugly. I could see the shoe was ugly in comparison to what my classmates and the other kids in the school, were wearing at the time. My mom is thinking about durability and how long this girl is going to wear this shoe for, because that's the most important. I was so pissed at them for not, getting me the kind of shoe that I wanted. There is this shoe that kids used to wear back then, container, that's what they used to call the shoe. I wanted that shoe forever. Primary school to secondary school, I wanted a container. Did I ever wear a container? No. Until date, I still carry that with me, the fact that I never wore a container. Some people might look at me now and say, like, if you grow up, but like, no, it's like the little things like that. Because like all the kids had containers, I was the only one who didn't have it. Maybe there were other kids who didn't have it as well, but see, they were not much. I don't know. I'm talking about my experience right now. It seemed to me like the entire planet had a container, and I did it because left, right, center, everybody had container. If I look down, you see containers everywhere, and I'm the odd one without a container. So it's like little things like that, and kids they are not happy. I wasn't happy that I did not have a container. I wasn't happy that my parents could not afford me a container. I wasn't happy standing out like that. I wasn't happy knowing that the reason why I don't have it is because I'm poor. I wasn't happy when I came to realize that other kids don't live in one room with their siblings and their parents like I did. And it's not just a container. There was a time another footwear reigned. A lot of kids had it. They called it the skull. I can see if I'll find a picture of the shoe and put it up. I wanted that slipper so bad, but I could never get it. Why? Because my parents could not afford it, but everybody around me had it. It's like little things like that that you would never get to enjoy, and you carry with you for the rest of your life. Even though I can afford a container now, I can't wear a container anymore because I'm grown. But would I be pissed for the rest of my life that I never got to wear a container? Yes. You knowing that you have just one pair of uniform, but your classmates have 2-3 pairs of uniforms. You seeing the kind of food your classmates are bringing to school, or what they can afford during break time, and then comparing with the food you brought to school or what you can afford during break time, or hell, if you're even affording anything during break time, which I did not really used to be able to afford things during break time because my parents they can't afford to give us that extra cash to have to buy something during break time. When I was in primary school, we had this end of the year celebration where they give awards. My mom was in this particular competition with my sister. This particular competition, right? The parents are on one side and the kids are on one side. So the parents of the kids of the parents, right? They're on a roll. And they'll ask the kids questions and the kids will answer in secret without the parents hearing. And then they'll ask the parents that same question, and then the parents will answer, and they will compare the answers. And they'll do this like this back and forth, and then they'll compare answers, and they give score. And how the winners are determined is what parents and what kids can answer questions, give the same answer to questions. So the parents and the kids will like the most correct answers will be the winner. And my mom and my younger sibling did this kind of competition, and they won. Like, they won first place. And there was this nice, I've forgotten exactly what the prize was that was to be won, but there was this prize to be won. But they refused to give my mom the present. Why? Because they didn't think someone like my mom was going to be the one to win. They were expecting one of the rich parents to win. Hence why they had that prize, like it was a grand prize. And when my mom won, they were disappointed. They gave my mom something else. Hello? Hold on. Yes, David. It's kind of urgent, so can you tell quickly? Okay. Remember that time where you and mommy entered into that competition that you people won, but they refused to give you people the prize?
Yes, I remember.
What price was it?
Okay, it was supposed to be a cooler, but they ended up giving us one rubber stuff like that. I felt terrible. Sister, please just hold on. Hello, Stevie. Echo Bank. Hello, Stevie. I felt terrible. I felt very, very, very terrible.
What exactly did you like? Why did you feel so bad? Like, what was the reason? Like, the main thing
Okay,
that pained you about the situation?
okay. What pained me, we stood under the sun for the competition. Plus, most of the questions are not like no mommy takes her time to get to know us now, know things about us and everything. Like they study us even without asking, and that's something that many parents they don't do. They don't study their children. So for your parents to like for mommy to study, even though it not really pain me for me, but it pain me for her. Like she deserved that thing. She did present and all. So that it really pained me. Standing under the sun for the competition, winning the whole question. Many parents even dropped out before it got to the last question. It was just us standing, I think, for 3 questions or so. They said they have about 15 questions. I think now 15 questions. And mommy answered everything. The gift that they were supposed to give us, I think they gave it to one of my classmates, one of my friend named, because they are one of the rich people in school. They've never driven her for school fees and everything. I saw them taking home that particular present that day, and they didn't give us our own till I think resumption time will be some days later.
Yeah, they even delayed
The next resumption. So I think they had to buy something else to come and give to us. Yes.
Growing up poor, how did you feel about it?
I think it's when sometimes standing with my peers and everything, sometimes it can be a bit intimidating, but when I'm with family, I think I was contented. I hated it terribly. Sometimes you want something and you can't ask mommy for it because she's going to feel bad not being able to give it to you. You want something, you can't get it, you just have to swallow and act like you don't want it at all. I don't really like that thing. Nah, acting all mature and all demure. When you know deep down, when you know deep down, you really want it. It's painful. It's really painful. That's why I said, no matter what it is in this life, no matter what, my children, they will not. I don't suffer for us. Honestly, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay now.
Later.
Okay now. Take care.
My mom did not decide to not make a big deal out of it, but like it's one of those things that you as a kid you get aware of, like, and it breaks your heart. And there's like too many things to look back on growing up, like just too many things. I hated that my mom had to experience something like that growing up. It's like experiences like that you have. But then, yeah, there are people who are like the kids in Africa, the poor kids, they are like parents are raising them in small places. You know, they are doing great, they are resilient, they are strong, they are happy. Like, and no, we weren't happy. The fuck? It's having to find out that there is a pedo on your streets. And you find this out because you are at the well fetching water because there's no water running in your apartment. There's no plumbing in your apartment. It's just a room. You have to fetch water from the well. So I was at the well at in the evening, say 6:37 thereabouts. I wasn't sure, didn't check the time. I was 11 when this happened, and I was in like GS1. Not like GS1, definitely GS1. And then I encountered a pedo at the well. This is someone I knew, right? I've known him in the area. Didn't know it was a pedo. Back then, I didn't know what a pedo was. I was 11. I know what a pedo is now because I'm grown. All I knew was he was being inappropriate and I stayed the hell away from him. And yes, nothing happened. Thank goodness. But something could have. And I'm not going to share the gross details, but don't worry. Like I was no, I wasn't. And I did know after encountering him to stay the hell away from him. But unfortunately I did not tell my mom because I'm not someone that shares, and that can be very dangerous. To have that kind of trait as a child can be very dangerous, because something like that I was supposed to tell my mom, but I didn't. I only told my mom about this experience like maybe some 4 years ago, 3, 4 years ago ish, and she was shocked. Her jaw dropped like to the floor. Like, there's just so much that your economic situation can open you up to. And I'm bringing up this encounter because, like, while yes, I personally was lucky enough, I would say, to escape that situation, and nothing happened with me. There are kids who, because of their economic situation, would encounter someone like that and he could bribe them with, say, money or something that they know that these kids want, but their parents can't afford them, and that kids could easily fall into that trap because of it, right? It's just like, no. And just to be 100% clear, this is not me saying that coming from a rich home necessarily would save you from pedos, because we know that's not the case, right? That's not how it works. But what I'm saying is your financial situation, your economic situation, and that of your family can make you become prey to the predators out there. Being poor can open you up to certain unfortunate situations, because a pedo can look at a child from a poor background and say, oh, yes, I know there are some things that this kid wants, but their parents cannot afford them. So I'm going to use these things that I know these kids want to lure them in, right? To entice them and bring them into this space and, do crazy things to them. And these kids are not going to see anything because I can bribe them with this stuff. Or they can even go as far as thinking, yes, I know these kids come from a poor home, so their parents will not even be able to do much to me legally because they will not be able to afford it. So this makes poor children an easy target for pedos. Even though I don't live in that area anymore, my family actually moved out of that community years ago. We still live in the same city with the mofo. I have had the unfortunate experience of encountering him like 2 times now in the last, 20 years. And this is like one of the saddest parts about children who, had the unfortunate experience of meeting a pedo or getting rewarded by a pedo, right? Or just women and people in general who unfortunately get essayed, right? The thought that even if this person gets locked up at some point in time for their crimes, or whether they don't even get locked up at all, for being this criminal that they are, like this man in question, right? From my knowledge, he never got locked up, because from my knowledge, he never got caught, right? Is the thought that you can't just be coming by these people on the street and they immediately take you back to that point, right? Meeting them would immediately, even though you are in a happy place, even though you think you've healed and you've moved past all of that, right? Just encountering them would immediately take you back mentally to that point in time in the past where they did whatever to you, right? In my case, this man never was able to do anything to me, and I'm not exactly going to share how whatever happened and how whatever did not get to happen, right? But luckily for me, um nothing happened to me, but that may not have been the case for other kids in that area, other kids in that community. So the thought that he could have done something to some other kid, right, in that community, and for one, he never got caught for the things he did or possibly did or could have done to some other kid or kids in that community. But also the fact that just as I have now twice in the last 20 years come by this man randomly when I was up and about, going about my day, these kids that he possibly could have done something to could have also been coming by him too randomly. Like, the thought makes me very angry that this might have been happening to these children, right? And it's just so sad and it's so unfortunate and unfair. Nobody should have to experience something like that. No child should have to experience something like that, let alone now having to, live with the fact or the thought that, the the person who preyed on them, who arrowed them, never got locked up, never got found to have been this kind of person, but they also now have to be coming by them randomly on the streets. It's that has got to be so painful. I don't know, it breaks my heart really when I think about the possibility that he really did something to some kid on that street, because I could not have been the first and last kid he approached, right? And then just thinking about how this man got married and how he most likely have kids right now, right? And how he most likely have daughters, right? And how, oh my goodness, the fact that that's their dad, who knows what he did to his own kids. Just the thought like really pisses me the fuck off, gets me very angry. And he's still out there. This man is still out there. So kids, wherever he is, are not safe. Like, that's crazy. One of my siblings died in front of me, by the way. I was in GS2 when this happened. Her name was Itoha. She was the fourth child of my mom. She was very sick. She suffered for a very long time, my sister Itoha. According to my parents, they were not able to figure out what was wrong with her, but she used to have this moments where she just relapse, right? And she would convulse, but they could never figure out what was wrong with her. Eventually, at some point, my parents started thinking maybe it was like a spiritual problem, but I don't think it was. I mean, I don't believe in these spiritual things, but yeah, so some people might say, oh, it's because you don't believe in it, that's why I don't think it was spiritual. It could have been, but nah. I think my parents could not figure out what was wrong with her and give her the help that she needed was because we were poor. They did not even have the resources to say, like, maybe take her to the best of hospitals to try and figure out the problem, right? I think if they had more to their accounts, she probably most likely would have been with us today, because they would have been able to figure out the problem. So yeah, I think our financial situation played a role in why my sister died eventually. She died when I was in GS2. At the time I was like 12, going on 13-ish, thereabout. And at this point she suffered for a very long time. She suffered since like she was an infant. Even she barely even was able to get an education. What am I saying? She could not even get an education. She died when she was 7, because she was always like relapsing on what, I don't know. I'm using that word now because it was like, after a while she'd be fine, and then after a while she would fall back and be sick, and she used to have these like seizures. It was like epileptic moments. Is that the right way to word? I don't know. You guys, please bear with me. But yeah. And eventually, this last time, she felt very ill. She lost so much weight, and I remember vividly. Can't forget that day. The currents that NEPA brought, the electrical company of Nigeria, was bad. So it was like very dim lights. It was like very low currents. I was wrapping my notebooks, because that's something we used to do. We used to wrap our notebooks, try to make them fancy with like newspapers or old calendars. If you can get the fancier, the better. Some people like using the plain back of the calendar, depending on what you are into, right? And you design it however you're into, but that's not the point of the video. I feel like I'm mentally trying to escape even sharing this story. Here I am saying that I want to like talk about why it's like sad and annoys me when people romanticize poverty, but here I am still at the same time not wanting to say anything. I really need to get out of this side of myself. But anyways, I was wrapping my notebooks and my textbooks. She was on the floor, just not too far from me. So I was sitting like this, facing the TV. The TV was on because, like I said, the current NEPA had brought was like very low, and the bulb was not bright enough because the current was low to brighten the room. So the TV had to be on to bring in extra lights. Yeah, that's the purpose of the TV that night. So it was on, and it was NTA News that was airing. So this happened like past 9 to 10 thereabout. Can't remember, but it was late in the night. And I was wrapping my books facing the TV because I needed that light, shining on me. It was like to my right on the floor, and then from nowhere I started hearing her like breathe strange. She was breathing funny. I know now from what people have said that that's like if you hear someone breathing like that, you know that they are dying. It's like the breath of death. I don't know, that's what someone called it. I don't know if it's like the accurate term for it, but she was breathing like there was something blocking her trachea or something, like her pipes. When you have like catarrh, when someone has catarrh and they are struggling to breathe, like it's like that, but like different and worse. I don't know how to, it's just different. But so at first when I noticed it started out like soft, the way she was breathing. I could hear the weird breathing sound, but like soft. It started out softly. So when I first picked up on it, I turned and I looked at her and I was like, I called to her, like, Ito, are you okay? She slowly, very slowly, like tried to nod her head. So I could tell her, oh, she's fine. But then eventually the breathing sound progressively started getting like more intense and worse. Like it was like the rhythm of it was like increasing, the volume, the intensity of it was like increasing. I turned to her again. I called to her. She slowly turned her head to look to my direction, and I could tell that okay, she's fine. She could turn her head, meaning she's fine. Maybe she has catarrh or something. But then it kept getting worse. Like right before my eyes, like was getting worse. And it got to a point where like this is not normal. So I screamed. Like I immediately said I was scared immediately because like no, something is wrong. Right? I could tell something is wrong. So I screamed, called out my mom. My dad wasn't around, he was at work. My mom came and then she too, she raised the alarm. The neighbors came and they rushed her out. But long story short, she died on the way to the hospital. There were points in my life where it was so bad that I started, and to be fair, this wasn't only because of our economic situation, our finances, there were other factors that played into this as well. But this, focusing on the topic at hand, which is poverty, it was so bad back then that this happened more when I was in senior secondary school. I started telling myself that my reality was a dream and that I would soon wake up to a better reality. Like, I don't know how else to word it, but I hope you guys can understand. Like, I hated my life so much that my brain was, I don't know if it's my brain maybe trying to protect me. They say the brain is like, it does some very interesting things sometimes, but this was what was like really happening to me back then. I started genuinely feeling like my life was a dream and that I would soon wake up, that my life was a very long dream. So I need not worry because very soon I would wake up to something else. Did I ever wake up? No, because guess what? That life was what played out all the way through, and it's a life that is still playing out till now. I never woke up. So it's just like it's crazy that people who haven't lived this life, and I don't know the life this lady in particular have lived, and I'm not even speaking specifically about her. I'm speaking about people like her, because there are others out there, people that have this mentality. You know what growing up in that kind of situation did for me? Now I have this scar on my leg that is going to be a forever reminder of the fact that this is where I come from. I don't mean it in the sense that like, oh, I hate to remember this. Like, that's not what I mean. I'm just saying, like, this was my reality and I can't forget it. My body tells story of where I'm from, and I have this one on me, this big one on my leg. I'm going to put a picture up so you can see of the evidence of this poverty and why, like, it's not something that should be romanticized. This particular injury. So what happened was, Because of course it's Nigeria and the country really don't used to give us lights like other normal human beings are receiving lights out of the country, Nigeria. So we now have to get generators, right? So we can give ourselves lights, which is still a thing till this goddamn day, by the way. But moving on. So back then, we had a generator. It was a very small generator. This generator, Nigeria's called the generator I better pass my neighbor. So we had this generator. It's like the cheapest generator in the country. Right now, it's not that cheap anymore because inflation in naira is going to hell. But you know, in comparison, it's still the cheapest generator in the country because it's very small, cannot really power that much, but it can power at least little apartments like the one rooms and the room and parlors and maybe some self-cons. So we had this generator that we used to use once in a while when my parents could manage and squeeze some money out for fuel so we could power the generator. And this particular day my dad wasn't home. So it was just my mom and the rest of us. But the thing is, because we live in this one room that I can't call an apartment because it's not an apartment, it's just a room. All our properties have to be in this one room. You can't keep things outside because they could get stolen. So everything goes inside. Your stove, your buckets, your footwears, everything goes inside that one room. That one room is our everything. Our apartment, our basement, our attic, our everything, except toilet, bathroom, all of that. That one room can't be that because obvious reasons. Usually the arrangement is when you use your gen and you live in a one room like we do, you wait for the gen to cool off before you take the gen inside. And you have to keep your gen in the room for security reasons. So, the second owners that did not contribute money for you to buy it don't snatch it in the middle of the night. Not sure exactly what time it was in the night, but what happened was, it's like my mom was tired and she needed to go to bed. She could not wait for the gen to get any cooler. She had waited a little bit. The gen was still, steaming hot, but she went to go to bed. She was tired. It's been a long day. Can't even blame the woman after all the washing of pap and maybe hawking in the morning and having to take care of us and the cleaning and the cooking. Woman was tired and she needed to go to bed because another long day ahead of her tomorrow, right? So she brought the gen in. I'm laughing because life. She brought the gen in. And she kept the gen where, they keep the gen. And we slept on the floor. Us, the children, slept on the floor. So in the middle of the night, all I know was that in my sleep, I felt my skin burning. It was so painful. And I screamed. I woke up screaming. And my mom was like, what happened? What happened? Everybody was like, so they sacked us all of a sudden because everybody was like confused. And I had my leg like, oh, my leg. I can't remember what class I was at. Maybe I don't know, primary 1, primary 2, thereabout. I was still pretty young when this happened. And I think the only reason why I even maybe have these memories because of it was a traumatic experience. So of course I remember and I still have the scar on me. The scar didn't leave. So apparently in my sleep I stretched. I stretched my legs towards where the gen was. And my leg touched the exhaust. So the exhaust was still hot and it bumped me. I'm not sure why I'm laughing. See, let me tell you. So it happened in the night. There's nothing my mom could do in the night. Except maybe finding a little, but then eventually we have to go back to sleep. I was in pain. I don't really remember much after like that scream, waking up and finding out that, oh, I stretched and I used my leg to touch the exhaust of the generator, hence why I got burnt. Outside of that memory and maybe the little rockers, because things were in disarray when I woke up screaming. That's it. That's like the memory. Next thing I remember was like maybe the next day my leg was swollen, because when you like born injury, to swell, water will gather inside and then to burst, and then eventually, so yeah, that happened again. Side effect of poverty, because if we were living in a decent apartment, we would not have to be bringing the generator into the house. Like, no, that would not be a thing, to be on the corridor outside, or maybe even had its own generator house. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like things like this. I think back on, and now I can laugh about this particular experience. But even while I'm laughing, I'm like, that's sad. That's unfortunate. I hate that happened. And even back then when I was young, I was like, this is fucked up, man. So to romanticize it, someone's suffering. The kids they're not getting the best, they're not getting the best clothes, they're not getting the best foods, they're not getting the best footwears. I told you about how, my situation.
Lord have mercy.
My mom tried. She knows how to sew. She could make some nice things for her, but you also have to be able to afford the material to make these clothes. Could she always afford the materials to make the clothes? No. Did she even always have the time to be able to just be on the machine constantly making fancy clothes for all of us? No, because she has to, she has her business to focus on. She used to hawk pap. Yeah, my mom hawked pap. My mom was a hawker. That's how much we were struggling. It wasn't fun. You think I enjoyed seeing my mom like that? No, just looking at my mom having to struggle like that for us. I appreciate her and my dad for all that they did, but you think I enjoyed looking at her having to do that? Like, no. No, under the rain, under the sun, my mom used to come home with like her legs, because like during the rainy season it can get bad, and she has to go out in the morning to start hawking this pap, because that's when you really sell hawk pap, right? In Nigeria, it's a breakfast food. So you can, not saying you can't eat it any other time in the day, you can, but like, so she goes out in the morning to sell the pap, and it rains, and she has to like constantly, her legs constantly being wet. You know what water can do to your leg, right? So in between, like her last toe, for example, it's like very, like the baby toe is like very tight, so water can get stuck in there. And I don't know if people with like tight toes know what I mean. If you don't get it, make sure the water don't get stuck there. It just continues to soak on the flesh. So that used to happen to our last toe, which I still have the same issue, by the way. I have a very like tight last toe, but I'm not hawking akamo, so I can have my bath morning and evening like I usually do, and just easily, like when I'm done, make sure I dry that area, because I know what's going to happen if I don't. Right? Those with tight last toes, or maybe even have all toes like very tight, know what I'm talking about. So this is something that my mom had to always do, right? Deal with. And some people might say, oh, why wasn't she wearing a rain boot or something? She can't wear a rain boot. She tried the rain boot. Trust me, she did. It didn't work. Why? Rain boots have like an opening. The water can still find its way into the boot and be stuck in the boot. And now it's like, what's the point, right? Because her leg is going to be inside water in the boot. It's like having to look at that happen, like with your mom every day. You think like we were happy? No, I was not happy. And also using experiences of children, African children from such backgrounds and their realities, to maybe want to, as a lesson for your kids. That's something else that I personally don't appreciate when people do it. Oh, the eat your food, or because African kids are starving.
And when I was a kid, they said, eat every bit of food on your plate because there's people hungry in Africa.
Africa's starving, and I'm gonna eat this gold wing in honor of them.
Finish your plate. There are starving kids in Africa. Oh, eat your food. You should be grateful. There are starving kids in Africa. There are starving kids in your country too. There are starving kids right in your backyard. Why don't you use them as examples to get your kids to eat? Africa is a continent with 54 countries. Leave us alone and keep us out of your mouth. We are not multivitamins.
Even though we were poor, we did not experience being starved. Our parents tried to, as much as they can, make sure that there was always food on the table, right? But that being said, there are children globally who are starving, right? Not only on the continent, but globally, unfortunately. And I personally think that statements like these are very insensitive. Using other people's suffering to as some kind of motivation, or using it, pointing it out to your kids to make them feel better about themselves, or make them straighten up in some way. I'm like, that's weird. Like, can we stop doing that? And I try very much to stay cool in this video, because like there were moments, like even talking about it right now, like it's triggering, right? Having to remember certain things now because I'm making this video, having to, like, these are things that some of them I don't even want to remember. I would not wish the background I grew up in on my worst enemy. So to come out and say that, oh, we are some of the most resilient, we had to be resilient because we had no other choice. There was no other option for us. Come and say, oh, maybe because of our situation, it made us strong. Nobody should have to experience that or live like that to be strong. Like, we did not even want to be strong, but we just wanted to be kids and do kid stuff, enjoy things that other children are privileged to enjoy. We did not have the opportunity. We could not afford that. We could not get those, even though we wanted it, because our parents could not afford this. We were not happy about this. We had to be strong. We had to endure because we had no other choice. We had to be resilient because we had no other choice. We could not give up on ourselves. Nobody should have to live like this to be resilient. You can enjoy life and still be resilient. Nobody should have to, even like us, for example, have to listen to people on the internet use our trauma, right? Our traumatic experience, our sad, unfortunate realities growing up as a means to say, oh, because these kids were like this, now look at where they are now today. It's because of this background. Now we should be grateful we that happened to us, that's how. No. And it should not be a standard for you to say, oh, maybe we should make kids suffer, because especially if you can afford to make sure they are not suffering, right? It's not right to now start, because there are people that think this way as well, that, oh, maybe if you should strip some things away from these kids, make their life somewhat difficult, it's going to shape them into like better human beings. No. That's for one, I think it's evil. Two, there are kids from the environments that I grew up in that did not turn out great because they were already set at a negative. There was not much that their families, their parents would give them. I don't even know. It's just like there are kids that came out where they are presently today, which is not that great, and that can be traced to the foundation. So to come out and say that, oh, maybe poverty, there's no positive to poverty. Attributing the success of individuals who came out from maybe not so great backgrounds to now say, oh, the reason why they came out successful is because this background shaping them. It's like, no. There are people who came from like that same background, and because they came from that background, today they are adults and they are not so good individuals. Some of them are like agberos. The agberos we have in society, they can trace the reason why they are agberos to their background, to the foundation, to poverty, because their parents were not able to give them better education, expose them to like maybe things that would change their perception and broaden their horizon and make them know that, oh, there is more to life than what you were born into. I don't know if you guys get me. That's also a factor that comes with poverty. You could be born into it, and it could break you. It could like mold you and turn you into something and just limit you. Yes, there are people who were able to break out of it, right? But there are also people who couldn't. They are saying that poverty can shape people, make them resilient, make them strong, make them... No. If you can break out of it, it's like you are lucky. I really wanted to add my voice to this conversation. I know I said, I tried, I wanted to in this video share more, but you guys will have to forgive me that, because like I'm trying to want to like talk about there are certain things that, even though are not things that would be like controversial or maybe detrimental to my image or the image of my family or whatnot, I'm just not used to opening up. It's a struggle for me. I guess maybe I still haven't been able to, for some of these things, heal from them. Maybe that's why I can't really talk about them. Who knows? Because like these are like, it's like they're traumatizing things. Hence why, like I said, I really did not want to go to the Jenkins page. Till date, I still haven't gone there, and I won't. Maybe if their page even mistakenly gets suggested to me on my FYP by TikTok, if TikTok mistakenly suggests their page to me, I'm going to block their page, because like I don't want to see that. I don't want to have to see kids suffering, because I know what it's like. I suffered. Yes, my parents tried to do all that they could to get me the best, me and my siblings the best that they could, and I'm forever grateful to them for it. But to keep it 100, this is not me shaming them or anything, because I'm grateful to my mom, I'm grateful to my dad. They did the best, right, that they could, given what they had. But still doesn't change the fact that the best that they had, the best that they could give, wasn't the best. And I don't hate them for it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying I hate my parents for it. But I'm just saying that it wasn't the best. And I hated growing up that I wasn't getting the best. I hated the fact that I wasn't. And another person I want to give like big shout out to in this video is my aunt in Italy. I'm not going to be mentioning her name. She really did help cover us, all of us. Like I'm so grateful for that woman, because like when I think about it, it's like to simple things like having the best of clothing. And that's something that I got to enjoy from my aunt in Italy. She's my mom's younger sibling. Because like back then when I was like secondary school, I'm about to cry. She used to come home to Nigeria every year, and whenever she's coming home, she used to come with clothes, a lot of clothes for everybody, us and our cousins. Everybody gets clothes and shoes and even phones. The very first phone I got was from her. And now that I think back on it, like there are certain things I got to enjoy, and she was able to cover us, and she was able to help me escape certain things. Because now that I think about it, like, and this is something I thought about before, if she wasn't there bringing all of these clothes in that I got to wear, and when I'm going to I have to pause this video. If my aunt wasn't coming to Nigeria with all of the clothes that she was coming to Nigeria with, that I got from her, and all of the shoes and all of that, like, I wonder what kind of clothes I would have been wearing in comparison. I wonder how I would have been showing up to extra curriculum lessons in secondary school, where I did not need to wear a uniform to school. I had to wear like mufti. I wonder if I would have been able to, quote unquote, at least shine like I did, and be able to like be in the presence of my peers and station the way I was, if she wasn't coming over with the clothes. I'm just like super grateful to her, because she did cover me, and she covered my siblings, even to like to church. A lot of the clothes I used to wear to church back then were from her. And I don't know how it is in other places in the world, but in Nigeria specifically, people wear their best to church. And thanks to her, my best was I could have bests that were worthy of calling best, because they were While yes, church is not supposed to be a place where you are going thinking about your clothes and all of that, but people were really bringing their best foot forward. You don't want to be the one that's caught behind. It's not supposed to be a competition. It wasn't a competition, but we are humans and we know how we are. We know how we operate. We know how we think. Nobody wants to be that person that is like not representing himself or herself like in the best way. And thanks to my aunt, I was able to represent to the point where I could be a lay reader back then when I was in church. And if I'm climbing the altar, going to take my readings, I know I look good. I know, even though that's not supposed to be important in the house of God, but let's be so for real. We are humans. It was important. It is important. No longer religious, but it's just like little things like that. So hearing her say what she said in the video, knowing where I'm from, listening to it, is like, nah, let's not do that. And that was why I wanted to make this video and share a little bit about what it was like for me being an African child from such a background, having to listen to people speak about our experiences like they do. For one, like, you can't, you don't know what it's like. So please, maybe don't speak on it. Maybe don't tell us we're happy. We weren't. Maybe ask us how we felt about living in the kind of conditions that we lived in, so we tell you. I know this is not an attack on the lady in question. I don't think she meant what she said in like bad faith personally. What I want to say is that contrary to what she think and what maybe others that share the same opinion as her might think, is that we too wish we were spoiled. We too wish we had a soft life. I wish I did not have to be fetching water every day and filling drums because water was not running in the apartment growing up. Hell, that wasn't even an apartment, it was a room. I wish growing up I slept on a bed. I wish. And to be very clear, my parents were able to eventually, over the years, elevate our standard of living. We were able to move from the one room to like a room and parlor. Then after that, we moved to like a two-bedroom apartment. And then after that, we moved to a three-bedroom apartment, right? So we were able to, over the years, elevate as we go, and things got better. It wasn't the best, even though, like, we're moving to like bigger apartments. It still wasn't the best because so things like our education, for example, was a struggle. They tried to make sure we go to like private schools for primary education, but after that, we all got sent to like public school to get public school education. And we all know public school education is not the best education, right? So it's like little things like this. It was just like cut and nail. We're managing and we're taking it one day at a time, basically. Money was short. It's always like managing situations. So there are certain things that kids would need, they can't get. You have to be telling you tomorrow, next month, right? So sometimes even things like, you know what, let me not say that because that's embarrassing. Yeah, that, oh my goodness, that just came to my mind now, and I don't think I'm ready to share something like that. So I'm just going to swallow it. The point is, don't bite more than you can chew. I guess that's a moral lesson of this story. And to every kid out there who are presently struggling and living in poverty, I want to say that I see you. My heart goes out to you guys, and I hope that you too would be able to come out of your situation victoriously. And also, I want to say to people who are adults now that had to live in like terrible conditions, I hope you are doing okay today. I hope you are doing better than what your foundation was. I hope you are doing way better than where you are coming from. I hope you were able to trash those terrible cards that you were dealt, and you have far more better cards now. Yeah. Not sure how to end this video. I'm just going to end the video before it becomes any longer. I'm shocked at the video, the duration I'm seeing right now. What is this? Am I seeing over 50 minutes there? Okay. Thank you very much for those of you who watch this video to the end. Thank you for listening to me share my experience. I appreciate you guys. I really do. Thank you. I'll be seeing you in the next one. Bye.